What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Sticks. DJ, Bucky, Rhett back with you. And guys, we got a lot to get to today. We've got a couple Monday Nighters, which I know we touched on this last week, Buck. But I think I've got a firm opinion on this now after seeing it for a couple weeks. I don't like the two games at the same time. Oh. I'm out on the two games starting at the same time. Not having it.
It was an hour. They were staggered an hour.
Yeah, but it needs to be a bigger stagger. If they're going to be on the same time, it almost has to be like a college football doubleheader where you have enough time to watch one before you turn over to the other. I don't mind watching maybe like the last quarter having to flip back and forth, but like, I mean, the whole game you're toggling back and forth. So I'm with DJ. I want to space it out a little bit. Or why don't we do a Monday, Tuesday night deal? Something like that so we can get all hours of the games.
Well, you know, the thing that I will say, the only negative to me would be the 4:15 Pacific time start out here is a little tough. I got a lot going on in that 4 o'clock hour. We're talking school pickups.
That's a school pickup.
I'm usually not catching that thing till, halftime. So definitely had to go back and rewatch a lot of that Eagles-Buccaneers game, but did catch plenty of the Rams-Bengals matchup. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, it was. I'm okay with two games. Just space them out so we get a chance to see both of them. I don't like having to choose. The choices are for Saturdays and Sundays. Mondays and Thursdays, I don't need choices. I want the menu to be presented. I want it to be preset, and so that's just my takeaway on that one. Let's jump into these games. Exactly. Philly. Let's get to this Philly-Tampa game. We'll start there. Buck, you can go anywhere you want to go. You can look on the defense. With Jalen Carter in that front and how dominant they were, the offensive line for the Eagles. I mean, Swift going off. You can go anywhere you want to go on the Eagles side of things. What stood out to you?
Well, let's just talk about the Eagles and how the expectations for the Eagles have made it where they can dominate a game and do it in a fashion where you win by 2 touchdowns, but everyone is still kind of wanting more from this team. Because they were so dominant as season go, I guess we expect them to kind of pick up where they left off, and that's just not how it goes. I would say when I'm watching this team, I see a team that has the ability to beat you a few different ways. They can absolutely run it down your throat and kill you with a bunch of gut punches where you have DeAndre Swift and Jalen Hurts and those guys running the football at will, and they still have the ability to have an explosive pass game. That passing game hasn't clicked yet, but you can see where they want to go with it. And then you guys talked about the defense and those things, Jalen Carter and their front and what they're doing. I'm just saying the Eagles haven't played their best ball, but here they are sitting pretty at 3-0, and you already can envision this team battling the San Francisco 49ers for the number 1 seed in the conference.
Yeah, I think that's where I would go big picture of this is a team that matches up very well with everybody with this front, but specifically the 49ers. That collision is coming down the road here. We've been talking about all offseason and into this year. Jalen Carter, guys, I went and broke that down. I mean, the interesting thing, he only played 21 snaps in this game. 17 of them are pass rush reps, only 4 reps against the run. So they're basically just able to use him as a situational rusher at this point in time. That's the luxury they have. He might be the defensive rookie of the year, on pace to be the defensive rookie of the year, and he's playing a little over 20 snaps a game here. They don't even need him. They have so many different guys they're rolling through. Nolan Smith is someone who flashes every week. He's yet to play more than 7 snaps in a game through 3 weeks. So they're going to be able to preserve all these guys. They're going to stay fresh throughout the whole year because of the unbelievable amount of depth they have up front. And then on the other side of the ball, Rhett, we were texting about this going through the tape this morning. This offensive line, with Kelsey's ability to get up to the second level, Dickerson as a puller, then you've got Lane Johnson, who's still the best right tackle in the NFL. They mauled a very, very big physical front in the Bucs, and you don't see lanes like that very often that DeAndre Swift was able to run through.
Yeah, and that jumped out immediately. And I guess I'll just say this quickly about the Bucs. I mean, it was kind of a fun, story early on. They go 2-0. I don't think many people expected a ton out of Tampa this year, but they found a way to win their first 2 games. They're going to be in some games, down the stretch here, but they look totally uncomfortable defensively in this game. I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles amassed 26 first downs, and 11 of them they got on the ground. And I'm not talking about all short yardage, tush push situations. Like, you look at I think one of their very first downs is an explosive play where they pulled Jason Kelsey. He's like a lead blocker through just a massive runway for DeAndre Swift, goes for 14 yards. It's like an RPO, and the linebackers are 4 yards. They go 4 yards backwards before even realizing it's actually run. So the runway and the gap between the first and second level is just so huge on some of those plays. Then they had a 3rd and 6, which, look, to Tampa's, defense here, I mean, that's a pretty big passing tendency down, right? And so you got, as we were talking about, DJ, Todd Bowles overloads to the boundary side. And what do the Eagles do? Well, they're just going to run a zone play to the field, and it's 3-on-2, and it's an explosive play. So, look, that good game planning on the Eagles side, seeing tendencies and finding ways to exploit those. They mauled guys all over the field here, and it was fun to watch if you're an Eagles fan.
Yeah, and I will say, just kind of put a bow on that one. The Bucks. Look, they're going to be in it in that division. That division is not going to run away from them. They've got a real chance to win this division.
Yes.
Get into the postseason and kind of a reset year. So, look, it's not all hope is lost there in Tampa. They're going to have a chance to stay in this race all the way to the end. Buck, by the way, I do notice that anytime we talk about the Georgia Bulldogs, your dog gets a little fired up in the background right there. It's just they have that
so
sense.
Unfortunately, man,
what's going on.
She knows what's going on. She knows whenever we talk about the Bulldogs, she kind of, as an American Bulldog, she's like, hey, whoa, those are my people, my cousin, let me make sure I speak up. So she wants to make sure that she gets involved and supports her people.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the English Bulldog wouldn't care. That's it. Yeah.
Well, now let's get to the next one. If you have a Bengal tiger in the yard, then we got real problems here. But let's go to the Rams and the Bengals here. Takeaway on that one, Buck. What do you got?
Joe Burrow kind of sucking it up for the team and showing up. Like, I was really worried about Joe Burrow playing in this one because of the calf, and the calf has been a lingering issue. But look, he sold out for his team. He comes back. He understands the challenge that it would be if this team had fallen to 0-3. So he plays, and he plays in a very controlled fashion. They find a way to really unlock Jamar Chase, and they didn't do it in a fashion where they're pushing the ball down the field. They moved him around, put him in the slot, got him some easy layups where he can touch the ball, 12 catches, had over 100 yards. These are the things that the Bengals have to do, because in this new NFL where they're taking away the deep ball, you're going to have to manufacture production for your best players and hope that they can break a tackle and make things happen. For the Bengals, it was a nice start. Even though it wasn't the high-powered offense that we've grown accustomed to seeing the last 2 years, it was a very efficient, effective offense that really complemented a very stingy and stout effort from their defense.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I would go. Otherwise, just to say on Burrow, I mean, 0 snaps from under center, right? They knew what they wanted to do with him. They knew how they wanted to protect him. He didn't throw a ton, outside of the pocket. He was comfortable inside of the pocket. That's where he wanted to get it out of his hands. And I love the competitor that he is. I love, how he, shows up for his team when they need it and figure out a way to push through, a tough injury. But I wonder if we're going to get to a point here where we're going to be able to put that concern to bed, and you're not going to be like holding your breath on every drop back, right? On every passing attempt where, shoot, he steps wrong one of these plays and, you're down for a month. And you certainly don't want that to happen as you start getting later into the season when these wins, you really want to be stacking these things up. But love that it's working out for him right now. And I'm glad he said that they didn't suffer any setbacks on that calf throughout this game. The thing I'll say, and if you were listening to the broadcast, I mean, you heard Orlovsky and Riddick just absolutely, pumping up Lou Anarumo, and rightly so. I mean, he was fantastic in this game, the way he was dialing up pressure. He didn't even, he pressured, I think, like 30% of the time. It wasn't like the 86% of the time, DJ, in the game that you saw with the Chargers and Vikings on Sunday. But it felt like there was constant pressure, right? It felt like they were bringing it from all over the place. The stunts and the games that they were doing up front with Hendrickson and Hubbard, and Logan Wilson got into the action too. I mean, they overwhelmed the Rams offensive line and did a pretty good job on Puka Nacua. First team to actually, keep him under 100 yards receiving on the year. So hats off.
Yeah, it was interesting just looking at this Rams team, on a day, I don't know why I was thinking about this, just on a day where you saw the Bucs playing in the other primetime game here on Monday night, and I'm thinking about Stafford, the throw, the Cooper Cup, the Super Bowl year, just what that complexion of that team looked like versus how many new faces and new guys they have on this Rams team. They have flipped it over. They're playing a lot of young guys and they're competitive. So they've been better than advertised to me what the expectations were. They lost a close one there. One thing I want to point out here before we wrap up this game, the bye week for the Cincinnati Bengals is coming up. That is October 22nd. So they have 3 more. if Burrow can kind of limp his way through at Tennessee, at Arizona, and then Seattle at home, that's not a murderer's row there. So if you're hopeful that this limited version of Joe Burrow can just kind of do what he did last night, and that's just get him to the finish line, find a way to win a game. It doesn't necessarily have to be pretty. It's not vintage Joe Burrow. But if you can get to that bye, you're gonna need to rest up then, because coming out of that bye, they're gonna face at San Francisco and then the Buffalo Bills. So those are two heavyweight matches waiting for them. So get to the bye. That's the hope here.
Yeah.
If you're the Cincinnati Bengals. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll jump into the rookies. A little recap off what we saw last week, and we'll have our rookie draft for Week 4 right after this. All right, let's take a look at the rookies that we had in Week 3. If you look at our draft last week, I had Richardson got me 0 points because he didn't play. Bryce Young didn't play for Rhett, so Bucky got the quarterback with Stroud. I barely won in the running back with Bijan Robinson. Bucky got a second-place finish. Then Bucky came back and also won with the wide receiver with Zay Flowers. So big week with Buck, and he leads the season total now. With 15 points. So strong week there, Buck. And I think one of the reasons why you're sitting here in first place is because of the performance of the guy you saw last week in C.J. Stroud. We touched on it yesterday, but I feel like we could you give a little more love there from what you've seen from the Ohio State quarterback.
Look, C.J. Stroud is everything that we loved about his game when we used to talk about him on path to the draft. We talked about how natural he was as a passer, how he liked to operate from the pocket. And just the way that he could just change the touch, timing, anticipation, the velocity on the throws, he just throws a very catchable ball. The part that I'm really most impressed with in watching him is just the maturity that he displays on the field. Played without 4 of his offensive linemen, played with a defense that didn't really have many of their starters, but didn't really matter. He did what franchise quarterbacks are supposed to do. He elevated the team. And when you think about the first 3 starts and how he is with Justin Herbert and Cam Newton as the only guys that have 3 starts where they go over 900 passing yards, that's really impressive. And the fact that he hasn't thrown an interception, to me, that speaks volumes about his ability to play winning football. This Texans team may have gotten it right with their franchise quarterback. There's a reason to be optimistic if you're a Houston Texans fan.
Yeah, and I feel like he's built a ton of trust, right, up with the coaching staff, with Bobby Slowick, and with everybody that has a hand in the offensive game plan, because there doesn't seem to be any guardrails. They're going to push the ball down the field. They're going to put it in his hands 30 times and trust him to protect it, trust him to find his playmakers. And, man, I feel like I've been saying it for like a year or two now. This Texans team it's been a slow build now, but they have been slowly building some interesting and kind of fun pieces, young pieces along the offensive side of the ball with, John Mechie just starting to get his feet wet. Tank Dell, obviously, is the rookie this year, is exploding right now, and especially in the explosive pass game. Pierce from last year back. Brevin Jordan starting to get back into the game plan a little bit too. And, Nico Collins is starting to open up his game. Like, there's just this team and this offense in particular growing with the quarterback that they feel like is their guy moving forward, I think speaks volumes. And it's going to be fun to watch in Houston, not just for the rest of this year, but for the next couple of years.
It's interesting. I was just looking at his numbers and comparing Stroud. And let's just, why not? Let's just go right to the very tippy top of the league. Everybody knows Patrick Mahomes is the best player in the league. He's been the best player in the league for a while now. And this is an incredibly small sample size. But when you start looking at like average depth of target, yards per attempt, adjusted completion percentage, like these numbers are all very close, through the first 3 games for each of those players. So when you're stacking up against the best in the business, and you don't look all that dissimilar, that's a heck of a start for C.J. Stroud. And, Buck, to me, I think this is something where this is obviously just the beginning. He's just getting started. But when you see early on in somebody, it's hard to tell. Sometimes it takes 3 years to figure these guys out. This game does not look fast for him. It does not look big for him. And I feel like this is just the platform he's getting ready to continue to grow. So that's it's got to be pretty exciting if you're a Texans fan. You got your guy, man.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's super exciting for them because we talk about how hard it is to find that guy. You're right, DJ. You talk about, like, sometimes you can just look and they pass the eyeball test in terms of the game is not too fast for them. They kind of step into the light when everyone is expecting them to play at a high level. He has done that. It'll be curious to see how he continues to progress over the course of the season. He's there, but I can't wait to see what Anthony Richardson and Bryce Young also do the rest of the season.
Yeah, but well, let's see if you can maintain your role here, Buck. You're leading this whole thing, this rookie draft. That I'll be honest, I don't even know if Bucky was all in on this. He was pulled into this whole thing, and yet here he is dominating through 3 weeks. I'm not happy about it. I'm not happy about it at all.
The receivers were pretty close. That was a pretty tight race to get that win for the wideouts there. I think we were all like within a couple of points of each other.
We don't care about closeness. We just care about the bottom line. We just about the bottom line business. We don't worry about how close it was. Did you win or did you lose? That's all we worry about.
You're right.
When you take a quarterback early, you can't get him to the starting line. That's tough. But look, guess what? Guess who gets to have the first pick as we rotate this through? Buck. And we're changing it up because of the health of the quarterbacks. No quarterbacks this week. New rule. This week, we're just taking a running back, a wide receiver, and a tight end. So we're eliminating the quarterbacks so we don't have that debacle that we had last week. But, Buck, you're up first.
This is hard for me because I used to have rules in fantasy football that I never could pick a player that is playing against my team. And so this week, the Atlanta Falcons are taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. And the moral compass to me is like, there's no way I can pick Bijan Robinson. But then I got to do it. I got to take Bijan Robinson number 1 overall because like it's you guys, and I can't stomach the fact that I would fall short if I don't have him. So I'm gonna take Bijan Robinson. Welcome to Team BB.
All right. That brings me up right here, Deej, at number 2.
Yep.
And
yep.
In this case, just I feel like. I went Roshan Johnson last week, and I felt pretty good about it. But obviously, that offense was a whole mess for the Bears. So I can't possibly go back to that well again. I got to go Jahmyr Gibbs. It's just I got to do it, and I got to hope that they're going to get him more targets in the pass game like they had been the first 2 games. So give me Jahmyr up with the Lions.
All right, well, I guess I know who I'm taking at that position, but I can wait. I don't need to do that anytime soon. So I can go back to back here. I'm going to go, I think I have to. I feel like I'm borrowing Rhett's, his pet here because Puka Nacua has been his go-to guy.
Wow.
And it wasn't a huge game for him, but still a solid game. I'm going to go Puka Nacua. They are playing the Colts, I believe. Let me double check that.
Yes.
Rams Colts next week. So I'm going to go Puka with my first pick, and I'm going to come back. I've got my choice of tight ends, and I'm going to go Sam Laporta. So those are my first 2 picks there. I'm going to go BYU and Iowa, my 2 guys.
Okay.
So
that comes back to me. I'm going to go Tank Dell. Give me the wideout from the Texans. The explosive play threat, big play threat. Went for buck 45 last week. Found himself into the end zone. I feel like the Texans are going to get it done. So give me Tank Dell, the rookie.
Wow. I mean, I would think that I'm a little disappointed that DJ has an opportunity to take the guy, Quentin Johnson, who's going to have an opportunity to play that Mike Williams is out. He doesn't even support his own guy.
No,
right? That's a little disappointing.
Josh Palmer's going to get a bunch of that.
I would think that you would be a little bit of a homer in that regard. But I am going to go, and this is tough because Zay Flowers and Jordan Addison both have been kind of doing the thing. But Zay Flowers was so good for me last week that I can't bypass him again. I'm going to go with Zay Flowers as my wideout.
You get to go back to back.
One more.
I get to go back to back. Okay, so then give me Dalton Kincaid from the Buffalo Bills, and so Josh Allen, this offense beginning to figure it out. James Cook has been good on the ground, so that should open up some things down the middle. And the pass game on play action, Dalton Kincaid, welcome to the squad.
All right, there you go. So Bucky's got his full squad laid out, and watching this Saints-Packers game last week, and I love the way that Jordan Love was targeting Luke Musgrave. So I am going to go with my tight end, and it's really, I like Dalton Kincaid, and I'm kind of expecting bigger things out of him, but at this point, I want Musgrave to get it rolling for me. 6 catches, 49 yards last week. I think might be even getting into the end zone this week for the Packers to kind of keep that momentum rolling on the offensive side.
I'm so mad right now. I got my last pick,
Why?
I had it all queued up and ready to go. I've been thinking about this for a while because this was going to be my pick. I've been thinking about this for a week. I knew this day was coming.
Wow.
And unfortunately, my man decided after a monster game that we no longer should reference his name with a chain. It is now a Chan, I believe, if I'm saying that correctly. It should
What?
be Devon A Chan. He's no longer A Chain
Oh.
because I had, and I know we probably couldn't use it because of copyright, but I had Quad City DJs come on ride A
man.
Chain ready to go. And thank you. Yeah. Call your defensive ends, Dan Marino, and your friends. That's right.
Oh,
I mean, I was ready to go. I was ready to go. But now it's A Chan. It doesn't work. It doesn't fit.
Yeah.
So that's fine. I'm still taking him. 200 yards
Yeah.
last week, so I'm in on him. He's going to be my pick this week. He got a couple new names in the mix this week.
Yeah, they don't have. I want to make sure they don't have the Broncos this week. Just wanted to let you know that they got the Bills.
Well, yeah, because everybody else has done such a great job of slowing that offense down so far. So I'm sure it's just a one-time deal. Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
I may or may not have
there's our
put like
rookie draft.
$37 on my waiver wire budget on Devon Chan this week. So
A Chan, man. A Chain just has such more punch to it, you know?
It
Dang.
does. And
Is
it still Devon, or do I need to make sure?
I mean, can you imagine?
Okay.
We got just cranking that tune every time he pops a run. The whole crowd is just pulling the horn down. I mean, come on. What a lost marketing opportunity on that one. Oh, well. It is what it is. That was a fun rookie draft, though. All right, we're going to come right back, and we're going to jump to the other side of the ball, the defense. We do this each and every week, looking at some individuals and some teams. And how about some coordinators making an impact? We'll get to that right after this. Are you ready for Scott Hansen to take you from game to game with NFL RedZone? Get every touchdown from every game every Sunday afternoon during the regular season. Head to NFL.com/RedZone and get it now. All right, it is time for Sacks and Quarterbacks presented by Campbell's. And look, this is not just because our producer Drew is a Michigan guy. This was actually my idea, so I'll take the bullets on this one from my Big Ten co-host here with Rhett, who's he's already frustrated. You can already see just rolling his eyes, shaking his head.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about,
Yes.
I always think about factories, right? What schools produce certain positions? We've talked about it with the LSU and Ohio State wide receivers, the job that they've done over the years. There's tight ends. Think about Iowa and Notre Dame have produced a lot of tight ends. I think one of the underrated factories right now is edge rushers at the University of Michigan. You can see it right there in front of us. 14.5 sacks by Michigan defenders. So guys who played their college ball at Michigan in the NFL. That's the most of any college in the league so far through 3 weeks. So it is a list of guys. Think about Aiden Hutchinson, Kwity Paye, Rashawn Gary, even Mike Dana's getting after it a little bit. Rhett, any of those guys stand out to you? Have you had a chance to peek at any of? And then Buck, you can follow them up there.
Couple of things. By the way, do you remember yesterday when I was talking about Justin Fields on the show, or on Monday when I was talking about Justin Fields on the show, and I mentioned the second play, the right guard got absolutely destroyed. Well, it was Mike Dana that actually was part of that. I didn't call it out at the time, but yeah. So he's obviously doing quite well on the interior there for the Kansas City Chiefs. You know what? This is kind of interesting because I was thinking about this, and I want a disclaimer. I love Ryan Day as a coach, okay? I feel like we need to get some Ohio out here, okay, before talking about all this Michigan. I love what he's done at Ohio State. He's the perfect guy for that job. But you know what, the turn, because we used to think about Ohio State in this way, right? Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa, Chase Young, and they had that run up at the top of the draft. Well, kind of ever since the pendulum shifted into Michigan's favor, you kind of look back and it's kind of been those edge rushers that have really kind of taken over and have been those bigger pieces of their teams, impact at the college level, and then obviously continuing it into the National Football League. So Rashawn Gary is one of those guys that, we thought, he was a super highly recruited dude. And I think folks in Michigan will tell you they probably expected a little bit more, out of him while he was there. But you always knew he had that ridiculous potential and athleticism, and he was going to reach that at the next level, and he really has. I mean, since coming back from the injury, he's been fantastic. I thought the Falcons actually did a pretty good job on him, kind of making him think a little bit. He wants to go, ears pinned back, get into the backfield, get to the quarterback. But, they had some of that mesh game working with Ritter and Bijan, and so they kind of eliminated that a little bit. But, boy, the Saints ran into a buzzsaw with Gary this week. I mean, Spencer Penning got some. Ryan Ramczyk got some twice. They even put a sixth offensive lineman out there outside of Ramczyk to kind of lengthen the runway to the quarterback. Didn't matter. Beat him like a drum and got to Jameis Winston once Derek Carr was out. And by the way, it was a Rashawn Gary sack that unfortunately took Derek Carr out of the game. He's been really, really good, and he comes off both sides. They can move him around. It's a lot of fun to watch for the Packers there, Buck.
What's funny, Rashawn Gary, the evaluation was hard because he was more athlete than playmaker during his time at Michigan. Well, the guy I'm going to talk about, Aiden Hutchinson, was playmaker and athlete. You saw it his final season at Michigan where he just crushed it off the edge. He's continued to crush it in the National Football League. Aiden Hutchinson is an absolute monster coming off the edge. And as this Detroit Lions team kind of steps into being a contender, playoff contender, maybe eventual title contender, a lot of it will be due to their ability to improve on defense. And that defense is led by a guy who's a Energizer Bunny off the edge, and Aiden Hutchinson. He talked about being so successful coming off the edge. He's going to have to practice new dances. He's running out of material after he sacks the quarterback because he didn't know that he would be able to get to the quarterback as often. And I know Dan Campbell and Aaron Glenn love the fact that he's able to put consistent pressure on the quarterback. As this team continues to play in these big games, as they get closer to making their playoff run, Aiden Hutchinson is going to be a guy that gets a lot of attention because he is the most dominant player on their front line.
Yeah, I go back and look through my notes when I went back and watched these guys. Aiden Hutchinson on, going through PFF and watching the video on the cut-ups, 21 pressures. He, of all these guys, moves around everywhere. I mean, he is standing up. He's a head up over a tight end. He's in the inside shade of a tackle. They'll play him in some three technique stuff, let him rush over guards. Like, he moves up and down the line, hand down, standing up. He can do anything. His versatility is a big asset to that defense. And depending on the matchup, we always talk about find the tomato can, like who is the weak link of that offensive line. Mm-hmm. Aiden Hutchinson has that ability to go over that guy and get after him and make things happen. He can do it with speed. He can do it with power. Anyways, just the most versatile of all these guys. Talked about Rashawn Gary. He's the most twitched up, just how explosive he is. You saw it, the testing numbers that he had coming out. He's a freak. He's not as polished and not as versatile as Hutchinson, but he's more dynamic, more explosive. And then the one we didn't have a chance to hit on yet that I want to touch on is Kwity Paye. I went back and looked up my notes on him coming out. He was somebody who was 6'0", 2'4", 261. He ran 4.57. So you're talking about, again, crazy explosive. Moved around the defense at Michigan. He's better when he has a runway on the edge. He's explosive. He plays with violence. He has to play run to pass at times, so they didn't just totally cut him loose there. But you could really see him close down the backside, and he's strong. So let's fast forward to what he's shown. He's got a sack in each of the 3 games this year. He's got 9 pressures. When he's on the edge, they widen him out. They get him in that 4-point track stance. I mean, they run a lot of that jet front stuff that we talk about with the Niners. The Jets run it, the Eagles run it, where they put him out there and they literally cut him loose. And that's where you see that speed to power that he has just kind of coming out of that track stance. And then all these guys, if you look at all of them, going through all my notes, the effort, Buck, is phenomenal. And that's like the underrated aspect of pass rushers is effort and finish. They're obviously getting that at Michigan. Something that Michigan deserves a lot of credit for because these guys play hard, they play 100 miles an hour, and they get some cleanup work as well as just winning right off the snap. All right, let's get to some of these new defensive coordinators. Talk about some of the individual defensive players having an impact. How about some of these coordinators going to new spots and making it work? You see there at the top of the list, points per game allowed. Jim Schwartz taking over in Cleveland. They are number 1 in the league. You see these other names: Steve Wilkes with the Niners. You see Joe Woods with the Saints. Ryan Nielsen with the Falcons. Those guys are all top 7 in points allowed. And then Arizona, Nick Rallis tied for 16th. Also, Jonathan Gannon helping with that defense as well. But it's interesting, Buck, when you see these guys, new coordinators, new guys in charge, and you see instant success. That tells me a lot about not only how bright these guys are and how well their team responds to them. I think it says a lot about the marriage of the scheme they're running and the players they have.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think it's a coincidence that 2 of the guys at the top of the list, Jim Schwartz and Steve Wilkes, are experienced coordinators, done it for a long time. They know how to kind of call games in this league. And as you pointed out, They understand how to fit the scheme around the players that they have. Jim Schwartz is the one that I've really been excited about because this Cleveland team, we've talked about it for the last couple of years in terms of how loaded their roster is. Well, now they have a coach on the defense side of the ball that really knows how to utilize the personnel. Myles Garrett, 3.5 sacks on a day. Jim Schwartz is absolutely unlocking Myles Garrett. And to think about the talent that Myles Garrett has and what he's been able to do in the league before Jim Schwartz gets there, the fact that everyone knows that he is the point on the sword, he is the go-to guy, but Schwartz is still able to get him those one-on-one matchups. It talks to the schematics that he's able to bring and how this team is really going. I'm excited to see the Browns kind of step into who they are. They are a defensive-led team that is able to run the football and do some of the things on offense, but it's that defense that's going to carry them far. This team, we've talked about it, This team is a sneaky title contender. If Jim Schwartz keeps calling it like he's calling it, this team is going to be one of the teams that's the last one standing in the end.
Yeah, and if Deshaun Watson gives us more of what we saw this past week from the quarterback spot and continues to build on that, I would agree with you, Bucky. DJ, you had the mea culpa on Monday with the Cardinals, and I think everybody's got to take a little bit of that messaging moving forward here. And I think a big piece of this is what they've done on defense, and it really shouldn't come as a huge surprise, even though. Excuse me. I mean, I think we can all, make the assessment that the Eagles' defensive personnel is a lot better still than what the Cardinals have. And Jonathan Gannon, pushed all the right buttons with that Eagles team, these last couple of years, now comes over to the Cardinals. And I think you got to give him and you got to give Nick Rallis a ton of credit for putting the guys that they have in the best possible positions to make plays. And I think what you're also seeing is that a team that may be a little bit less than in terms of perceived talent compared to the rest of the league, you have a good, solid defense that you feel comfortable with, that you can rely on, and it's going to serve you well. And they're obviously causing problems for offenses that we thought were going to be a lot more capable. Look at the Giants, look at the Cowboys each of the last 2 weeks. Now, they blew that game against the Giants, but they were in position. They've been in position in the fourth quarter in all of these games. And that defense, DJ, is a big reason why I think we got to give Rallis and Gannon and that whole defensive staff and, those guys like Zaven Collins, and they even have Buda Baker hasn't even been available for him for this whole season. So I'm really impressed with the way that they've kind of rallied the troops there.
Yeah, it's interesting when you look at it. We always talk about finishing. We just talked about it a little earlier about those Michigan pass rushers and the effort they play within the finish. I was pulling up some of these numbers on the Arizona Cardinals to speak to the importance of finishing. They are 23rd in pressures, okay? They're 23rd in pressures, okay, towards the bottom. They are dead last in hits, in quarterback hits. They're 32nd. They're 7th in sacks. So they're not getting a ton of pressure. They're not hitting the quarterback a ton. But when they get back there, they finish and they make those things count, as you just said, Rhett. So hats off to them. They have done a nice job there. Jonathan Gannon deserves a lot of credit for how hard this group's playing. They are not super talented. I mean, we weren't off base when we said what we said before the season started. This looks like a team that should probably have the first pick in next year's draft. It's going to be a long slog, but they're maximizing what they do have, and when they've got opportunities, they're making plays. So nicely done there by Jonathan Gannon with the Arizona Cardinals. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we've got some more work to do here. We're not done. We'll finish this thing up right after this. Want more NFL action this season? NFL Plus brings you live games on mobile, NFL RedZone, NFL Network, game replays, and more, all in one place. Sign up today at plus.nfl.com. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Thursday Night Football. This is a juicy one. It's a divisional matchup. It's two teams that are off to good starts this year. I feel like this is a collision course for the division. I don't think that's going out on much of a limb there. It's pretty obvious. It's the Lions and the Packers Thursday night at Lambeau Field. And Buck, you know the environment there at Lambeau, especially in a night game. That place is going to be absolutely rocking. And Jordan Love gets his first taste of this rivalry. What are your expectations on the Green Bay side of this thing?
Expectations, Jordan Love to continue to take another step. This is a huge game for Jordan Love because he's coming off the comeback win that kind of maybe solidified himself amongst the fan base as the next guy. And now you have an opportunity to kind of maybe take care of the team that knocked your team out of the playoffs. And so if he steps his game up, you talk about this environment being absolutely bananas. Jordan Love can feed off that energy, and if he feeds off the energy and continues to play the way that he's played at the position, the Green Bay Packers are going to be where they want to be at the end of the year. This young quarterback is figuring it out. This team is figuring out a new way to play post Aaron Rodgers. Jordan Love has a big game ahead, but if he plays well, man, the fan base and all his teammates are really going to love how he's progressing as their new QB1.
Bucky, I love how you kind of real time really talked yourself into that on Love being the guy now in Green Bay. You're like, well, wait, and no, yes. And there it is. Like, I'm with you too, man. I kind of talked myself into it this week after watching that fourth quarter. That was a lot of fun. This is a dude that's starting to feel it, right? That's starting to get comfortable and confident in what he's being asked to do and then going out there and executing it. I think, look, there's still some things to clean up there. Obviously, the first three quarters weren't pretty. But again, this is a team that was playing without Christian Watson, Bakhtiari, Elton Jenkins, Aaron Jones. I mean, like, the list goes on and on. Arguably, four of their best players on offense, maybe the four best outside of Jordan Love. So I really like if they can start getting a little bit healthier, that this team, and I think that'll be dependent, especially in a game against the Lions here with, guys like Hutchinson, coming off the edge or in the interior, wherever the heck he's going to be, as we already talked about. It's going to be important to have your best offensive line out there, to have Aaron Jones available to you if you need it, both in the run and the pass game. But I just like the way that Jordan Love is starting to kind of grow into this thing here. And it was clear in that fourth quarter, man, this is his team. This is his offense. He's taking ownership of it. And he's giving his best when his best is required. And I thought that was awesome to see that first game-winning comeback, that first game-winning drive for Jordan Love as QB1 in Green Bay. It might come down to that, DJ, against this Lions team.
Yeah, this is a Lions team that, they're comfortable going in there. This is a group that just went in there at the end of the season last year and did what they needed to do. Jared Goff playing with a lot of confidence. This is a team that I think has the ability to go in there, handle that. It's not going to be big for them. Primetime game. It's not. They've been there, done that. And it's a young team with that confidence, which is rare to find. Normally you get kind of a young, impressionable, play hard group, or you get an old veteran. Maybe you don't have quite the athleticism, but they're handle the moment. This Lions team feels like it's ready for that. So it's a different challenge that Jordan Love presents. It's a different looking offense than what they saw. We'll see what happens with the Packers on the health front. But if I'm the Lions right now, Buck, I'm feeling good about it. I'll tell you, the two rookies might be one of the reasons why I feel so good about it. Sam Laporta, what he's doing on offense, Jahmyr Gibbs in the backfield. Those guys are playmakers from day one. They fit right into this offense. It works. You talk about Jack Campbell on the defensive side of the ball. They've got a lot of pieces, a lot of young pieces that are playing really well right now.
They do, and don't even forget about Brian Branch, because he's been playing at a high level, stepping in, playing kind of that nickel safety role. He's been terrific. This is a team, man, you look at the Detroit Lions in terms of a team that really fits the personality of the coach. They are a gritty bunch. We can talk about their defense, and we've talked about it before, but offensively, the way that they can morph into whatever they need to in game action, meaning they can throw it all over the yard with Jared Goff, but they also, when it gets tough for them, they can line up and run the football behind that talented offensive line. This is a team that is built for the long haul. I like what I'm seeing from Detroit, and so this is why this is such a big game. Two young teams, two teams that are kind of trying to find their way in the NFC. Man, the winner gets to take a step up in the division and kind of inch closer to securing the division title and making a playoff run.
Yeah, I think so, and I think there's a lot to like about not just the running back spot and the young players that we've been talking about with the Lions, but Amon-Ra St. Brown. Obviously, if he stays healthy, and I know he's kind of been a bit banged up, he's kind of one of those 7-Eleven options for Jared Goff. Feels like you can just always find him, always open somewhere. I think the offensive line that they put together there in Detroit is a lot of fun to watch too, with Ragnow and Penei Sewell, and when Taylor Decker comes back healthy, but Graham Glasgow up there, Jonah Jackson, like they've got some dudes that fit what Dan Campbell is, what this offense is, and I think we still got to give a ton of credit to what Ben Johnson's been able to do as one of those kind of offensive ingenuity, relatively inexperienced younger play callers that continues to rise and elevate what he does to find the best place, to put these guys in good positions to win. So then this defense is playing a lot better than it was, especially during the first half of last season. This is going to be a heck of a Thursday nighter. That's for sure.
Yeah, and this is a Lions offense, by the way. They're 8th in the league with 19 explosives, so in the passing game.
Yeah.
So they've been able to get big chunks. Amon-Ra
Josh
St. Brown's
Reynolds
been a big part of that.
Yep.
And think about, they've spread it around, done a nice job. The crazy thing, though, I was looking at this, 19 explosives, that's a big number, tied for 8th. The Dolphins, 35. So the Dolphins, let's leave the Dolphins in their own category at this point in time, early in the season. But an explosive offense for Detroit, and Jordan Love leading a Green Bay team that is off to an excellent start. So a big-time matchup on Thursday night. All right, it's time for Road Warriors, presented by Courtyard by Marriott. All right, Road Warriors here. We're looking at some international games. Let's check it out here. We've got London for Buck. You'll be there. We've got Jags Falcons. We've got Jags back-to-back week 4 and 5. They have the Bills week 5. Buck's going to get a lot of London time here. Baltimore and Tennessee. That's going to take place in London week 6. Then we skip a few weeks. Then we go to Frankfurt for 2. Week 9. Dolphins, Chiefs, and Week 10, the Colts and the Patriots. Falcons, Jags, that is at Wembley on Sunday. Buck, what's your travel schedule? First of all, before we get to previewing the game, what are we doing on that plane? Are you asleep on the plane, guy, when you're flying internationally, or are you going to just load up on movies? What are we doing?
No, I'm going to try and sleep on the plane. So the way that the travel schedule goes, have a high school game Friday night. Right after that high school game, I'm going to jump on a red eye that'll take me 11 hours straight to London. Woo. I'll get there Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, kind of hang out for a night, then get up and ready for the game. And then I'll fly right back on Monday to come back to take care of our stuff for the week. And then I'll go back over to London the following Friday to do it all over again. But this should be exciting because it'll be my first time watching the Jags over there, and the Jags should have an opportunity to really take advantage of being overseas for 2 weeks. So this is an opportunity for them to maybe knock off the Falcons and knock off the Bills, because they should be very comfortable over there. It's a test for them, but this should be one where if they can get these 2 games, it puts them back on track, and maybe they can kind of find their footing as a team that was expected to really vie for a playoff berth.
Yeah. Buck already locking in that diamond medallion status. At away, buddy. At away.
Almost there.
Harder for us.
Almost there.
It's going to get harder for us next year. Just everybody knows, all you Delta Flyers. All right. Here's the other thing. This is a game that, to me, is a lot about toughness, right? Where is it? And what is it for the Jacksonville Jaguars, who have now dropped 2 straight after opening the season with a win? Right? Can you go across and cross, 11, well, it's not 11 hours for them, but for Bucky. But can you get over there and can you find an identity for your football team? Can you find some resolve as a team? Because you know that the Atlanta Falcons want to play their game, especially offensively, with that kind of toughness, with Algier, with Bijan, with Cordero Patterson if he gets healthy. So this is going to be a game where, like, in the landscape of the X's and O's, you are going to be tested on a toughness level. And then outside of the white lines, having dropped 2 in a row, you're going to be tested mentally and emotionally to see, like, all right, can we rally this thing, figure out a way to get ourselves back, understand that there were great expectations for us this season. We have not lived up to that. Understand what we have to do to get that back and then go out there and fight for it, Deej.
Yeah, no, this is a great opportunity, and I think it comes at just the right time for Jacksonville. It did not look great and just hasn't found the rhythm, haven't been consistent. I think they have a chance to settle in, as Buck said, get comfortable over there in Jacksonville, bring in 2 opponents, see if they can't go back home with 2 wins. But the Atlanta Falcons, they do present some challenges with the personnel groupings they can throw at you and how they can deploy their group. So I think it'll be a good game. I think it'll be a fun one. I'm just trying to figure out how the heck Bucky functions. I don't know how you do that. It's like that. That's like that Simpsons meme or whatever. He comes, puts the hat on the hat rack, grabs the hat, and walks right back out the door. That's basically that's Bucky's trip to London, in and out. I don't know, God bless you, man. I don't know how the heck you do it. The Oregon-Colorado game that we saw last week.
Oh, okay.
Got a lot of attention, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Not just because Oregon, was able to get after it and had a big win over Coach Prime and that Colorado group, but because of the pregame speech that Dan Lanning gave which personally I had no problem with whatsoever. It made its way onto the broadcast, and then I feel like, Buck, people came off the top rope with opinions for and against. I found that kind of funny. If by the way, if you could see everybody's pregame speech, that is 1 on a scale of 1 to 100 of what you can get to. But anyways, I didn't get your take on that, Buck and Rhett, so I'll listen to see what you got to say.
Look, this is what's going to happen when you're a team like Colorado, who has been very, I won't say in your face, but they've kind of given us all access to their program. So we've heard everything behind the scenes, in front of the camera about Colorado, we coming and all that other stuff. And so Prime is always going to get a lot of attention. And sometimes that brings about some not some jealousy, but maybe some envy from other programs who also would like to have that light shed on their programs. What you saw was, I would say, a brilliant motivational tactic by Dan Lanning for a team that was a 3 or 4 touchdown favorite, to make them feel like they've been disrespected by another team. And so you're always looking for something to kind of set the fire, to spark your team. He did a great job of playing to the cameras in pregame, but also kind of hitting that switch for his team. And I would say the bigger part was how he carried that anger, that intensity to the field, where they're going for it on 4th and forever, fake punts, kind of getting it going. So I understand it. And everyone who supports Prime, who doesn't like Prime, this is where we are. This is college football. This is the WWE taking over college football. I like this because rather than having this fake stuff like we like everybody, no, it should be contentious. It's a game. My team versus your team. Let's get after it. I like it.
Yeah, this feels like, to me, it's unfortunate. It's the last year of the Pac-12, but it feels like the South and the Southern style of college football. If you think about the SEC, think about going back to old school, Miami, Florida State, out, in the ACC. This is what that, or the Big East, I guess, what it would have been way back in the day. But this is a Southern brand of football where they take it seriously. Think about Jimbo Fisher calling out Nick Saban. Think about all the stuff we've seen over the years. You saw it with Ed Orgeron. We've seen it with Lane Kiffin. Like, there's all these personal rivalries and wars. I think even last year, who was it? We had Shane Beamer, I think, put on the sunglasses and did all. Talking about, I don't know who they were playing. Do you remember
Clemson, that? South Carolina, Clemson.
Thank you. So this has always taken place in the South. In the West Coast, it's just been this nice, let's play nice with each other. And all of a sudden, Dion brought some swagger. Dan Lanning coming from Georgia. This is how they talk. This is how they talk in that conference. Everything is personal. Everything is a war. And you're trying to go out there and just, beat people up fairly within the lines and talk about it while you do it. That's why it's so fun to see it finally come this way, Rhett. Unfortunately, it's like, we finally get to see it, and then the whole conference goes away.
Give me more of it. Okay? Like, this is amazing theater. Like, come on. Like, this is why we love college football. Like, bringing this stuff back and getting away from the boring, like, you're great, we're great. Like, no. Tell us how you really feel. And then, going out there and telling your team that, I thought that was great. And I thought it was good that you retraced Dan Lanning to Georgia, because you remember, I was sitting up at the very top level in the auxiliary media section at SoFi Stadium when Kirby Smart got on the podium after winning a second straight national title and goes, "Nobody thought we could do it." And I was like, what?
1-to-1, wire to wire.
Thought you were going to do it. The point is, it does not matter what the external thought and perception is. It's how you communicate that message to your team, the way you want them to play, and that's exactly what Dan Lanning did, and I hope he does it every week. And as for all the stuff on the field with the decision makings, remember the Titans. Leave no doubt. Run it up. Like, just go get after it, man. Like, I love a little bit of uneasiness, when a college football game ends, and like in the lead up to the game, like, just kind of brings the tension. I'm all for it here.
All right, this was a fun one today, guys. We had a lot to get into. I feel like we covered a lot of ground. We've got more coming your way all week here with the fellas, so be on the lookout for that. In the meantime, appreciate it. We'll see you next time on Move the Sticks.
Welcome to Game Day View. Patrick Claybon here with my pals Greg Rosenthal and Cynthia Freeland.
Micah Parsons is the best pure edge rusher I've seen come into the league.
Jalen Ramsey's not playing. This is an opponent that they're very familiar with. So I expect big things from Mac Jones.
I think the Ravens win in a close one by 1 point. Just one, which is math that I could do.
Hey, that NFC North defense looked pretty darn good last night.
Josh, you're breaking Cynthia's heart. You were her MVP pick, but there's still...
I'm not worried. I'm not worried, bro.
Welcome to NFL Game Day Preview. We want this to be your new Sunday routine.
But I expect to see an entirely different Bills team. Talking to folks here today,
They are facing the 49ers this week, which is a bad matchup, despite the fact the Steelers have the greatest offensive preseason of all time.
How is Dallas going to be able to move the ball against the Jets defense, which last week had 4 takeaways?
Myles Garrett is in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year.